You're standing in line. 10 seconds pass. Your thumb is already moving toward your pocket before you even notice the itch. That's not impatience. That's the last flicker of a 300,000-year-old survival system, and it might be dying out in your lifetime. Think about the last time you were truly, completely bored. Not bored while scrolling. Not bored with a screen 6 inches from your face. Actually bored, empty hands, empty room, nothing to look at but a wall or a window. Can you remember it? For most people under 30, the answer is no. And that gap, that missing experience, is stranger than it sounds. Boredom feels like a flaw. Something to be cured, medicated, scrolled away. But what if boredom isn't a glitch in your brain? What if it's one of the most important tools your ancestors ever had, and you are part of the first generation in human history that is systematically destroying its own access to it? Here's the real answer. It's far stranger than boredom is just discomfort. Boredom is a signal. A very old, very specific signal that your brain sends when it senses that your current activity isn't generating enough meaning or stimulation relative to what you're capable of. John Eastwood, a psychologist at York University who has spent decades studying this exact feeling, defines boredom as the uncomfortable wanting of satisfying activity paired with an inability to engage with anything around you. It's not laziness, it's a mismatch alarm. Now picture your ancestors 80,000 years ago. No phones, obviously. No books, no agriculture yet, in most parts of the world. Long stretches of the day where the hunting was done, the gathering was done, and there was simply nothing left to do but sit. What happened in those gaps? This is where it gets strange. Those empty hours weren't wasted time. They were the engine room of human creativity. Researcher Aaron Westgate at the University of Florida has proposed a model of boredom, suggesting that the feeling specifically pushes your brain to seek out more cognitively rich, more meaningful activity. In other words, boredom doesn't make you shut down. It makes you restless in a very particular direction, toward exploration, toward novelty, toward making something out of nothing. Cave art, storytelling around a fire, the invention of rhythm, of song, of games scratched into dirt with a stick. None of that came from busy, stimulated minds. It came from idle ones. Your ancestors didn't invent music because they were inspired. They invented it because they were bored, and boredom is a pressure cooker for imagination. Here's where your brain and your great-great-grandparents' brains start to look almost identical, and also almost nothing alike. The wiring is the same. The hardware hasn't changed. But the environment has changed so completely that the signal barely gets a chance to fire anymore. Think about what boredom actually requires to happen. It requires a gap, a space with no immediate stimulus. Your ancestors had those gaps constantly, waiting for prey, waiting for berries to ripen, waiting out a storm in a cave. You almost never do. The average gap between noticing boredom and reaching for a phone has been measured at well under a minute in multiple modern studies on attention and device use. The signal fires, and it gets extinguished before it can do its job. This is the part that should genuinely unsettle you. James Dankert, a cognitive neuroscientist at the University of Waterloo, who has spent his career studying boredom's effects on the brain, has found that people who are chronically understimulated and unable to tolerate boredom show measurable differences in attention regulation and impulse control. Boredom, when you let it run its course without numbing it, actually trains your brain to generate its own stimulation. Mind-wandering, daydreaming, problem-solving in the background, the kind that gives you a shower thought solution to something you'd been stuck on for days. When you never let boredom finish its job, that training never happens. You don't get the daydream, you don't get the shower thought. You get a notification instead, and your brain quietly forgets how to make its own entertainment. So here's the twist. The thing you've been taught to treat as an enemy might be the very thing that built civilization. Cave paintings, mythology, the wheel, the alphabet. Strip away the romantic story, and what's left is generation after generation of bored humans inventing things to fill the silence. Boredom wasn't the obstacle to human progress, it was the fuel. And now, think about what's actually happening to you, right now, in this exact era. You carry a device that can fill every single second of empty time you will ever experience again. Every line, every red light, every commercial break, every quiet moment before sleep, all of it can be instantly, permanently filled. Forever. For the first time in the entire history of your species,